Number 3, focus on movement, not perfection. You're going to notice some parallels between this one and the one that opened the month. Healing, I hate universals, so I won't say it's never linear, but man, it's rarely linear. And growth is almost always messy. But movement matters. If you had sexual abuse as a child and now you don't want to have regular healthy sex with your spouse, engaging in that's going to be hard. But if you don't, you're trapped by something that someone did to you when you were 12 or 7 or 8 or 16 or whenever. Small, consistent actions are what changes. So do what you can to move that way. If you have an addiction, it's going to be a hard battle, but you can beat it. We have plenty of evidence to prove that. Number 4, curate your intakes and your whole thing. Curate what goes into your brain. Some mental health content on the internet is good. Talking to people about your mental health is good. Talking with people about their mental health is good. But be careful. There is this really weird thing that well, I can talk to them because they went through the same thing. Maybe, but that doesn't mean they're healed. And I'm super concerned. We did an internship thing just recently, trying to recruit interns for future years. And I was talking to somebody who's doing her studies, her PhD thesis on church counseling. And I said to her, and hopefully why it should stop, because a lot of those people have zero training. They have zero skills in actually doing training. And what happens, or in actually doing counseling. And so what happens when they do the counseling, they do bad things. They hurt people. And so you need to be careful who you're taking intakes from. There's churches that form groups that they don't really have any training, and they go meet with people. And I get it. There are times that this is a good alternative because people can't get into counseling and all the things. But you need to be careful about the intakes that you're taking in. Everything you hear, you need to kind of run through a filter of, is this helping me grow or is it slowing my growth down? Even from people who want to help you. I want to be clear, I'm not even questioning their motives. I think there's a lot of people who genuinely want to help people who shouldn't be. Even the things you hear from a counselor, you should question. Number 5, remember that explanation and responsibility can coexist. In other words, remember, you can have a diagnosis and it can make total sense. You have a temper because you were abused as a kid. That's one of the ways your body decided to protect itself. That makes sense. You also have the responsibility to control that temper and not hurt your wife and your children, or your husband and your children. Understanding is not the same thing as surrendering. And what I mean by that is, a lot of times when people get the diagnosis, now they have understanding, so they surrender to the diagnosis as some sort of permanent behavior. Makes zero sense to me. Okay, so as we wrap up this episode and we wrap up the month of mental health awareness, I think one of the most important things that we can remember is this. Awareness was never supposed to be the end of the conversation. It was just supposed to be the beginning. It was just supposed to invite more people to the table so that we could all sit down together and talk. Your diagnosis might explain parts of your story. It might. In fact, it probably does. But the goal was never, now I finally have a label. The goal was always, now that you understand what you're dealing with, here's how we can move forward wisely. Your diagnosis can explain some of the battles you fight. It can explain why some things are harder for you than they are for others, or some things are harder for others than they are for you. But it was never meant to become our identity. It was never meant to become the thing that defined us. Because human beings are always more than their wounds. They're always more than their symptoms. They are always more than their hardest moments. And maybe one of the healthiest things that we can say is, this is something I deal with, without accidentally turning it into, this is all I am. Hey, thanks so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this month. I hope you're enjoying the episodes. If you are, would you be willing to share this with your friends? Just hit share. If you found it on social media, just hit share. If you haven't found it on social media and you're listening to it through whatever, you can find me on Facebook. My account is just pretty much wide open to the public. Feel free to go right there on Wednesday the 27th and just absolutely drop this out there for the world to see. Thanks so much for listening. We'll catch you next week.